A national strike on the railways, the first since 1994. Christina Hamilton very helpfully points out here, she's read somewhere that getting on for half of all strike actions, to some limited degree at least, achieve their objectives.
That means half of them don't. I mean, I just hearing Simon Calder before reeling off the dates, I've just realised my trip to London from Manchester is scuppered, and everybody will have their own reasons why paralysing the rail network is going to affect them. I've also got a daughter doing A-levels. You've mentioned you've got somebody doing one of your kids are doing A-levels too, people trying to get to work, people trying to get to jobs. Do the unions have no idea, or they're entirely tone deaf about what's going on out there? Let's set aside the moral repugnance of strikes, holding an entire nation to ransom with industries that make them a captive audience. What happens with striking is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If they work, then they work. So the more a bully bullies, then the more other bullies will think, well, we'll bully too. Does it make it right? Absolutely not. And I think if we end up in that kind of spiral of capitulating simply because it's worked before and people have suffered, where does it stop? So either we ban strikes, we certainly modify employment law so that there's either an obligation to keep some kind of skeleton staff there, so that more than skeleton, enough people there to keep a reasonable service going, or there have to be other ways to negotiate. The right to protest in law is very important, and in employment is very important. But I think when you hold people to ransom, hold them to hostage, then it will never be right. It can't ever work.
Angela says strike action on this scale is immoral. What do you say?
I don't agree with that. And I think the word bullying is inherently negative. But actually, in this context here, they're fighting for something that's totally fair, that they want to not have a pay freeze during a cost of living crisis. And it's a political right to be able to protest and to strike. And unions would say that perhaps it is selfish on the customers, but the customers are not who comes first here. They're representing the people working.
Angelica, just to follow up one of Angela's points there, do you not accept there is a case for some industries? I mean, there are some things where strike action doesn't fit with the strategic interest. In other words, for instance, if the police went on strike, if the people who want to run our nuclear power stations went on, it's not a God-given right for all employees. Some industries are so sufficiently important that strike action is particularly problematic.
I'll concur that there are certain industries where if it's dangerous to citizens to not have those industries in place at the time, perhaps that does need a skeleton. So there's been threats of a GP strike, like you said, the police, those services, if we were without them, it would be dangerous to citizens. In this case, with transport, it's highly inconvenient, I will grant you that, but it's inconvenient. But I don't think it's more than that.
Angela,